Hey guys, welcome back to mantalk.ke, another week, and this episode 6, as we always do, we're doing a Q&A, and these are my favorite episodes because it's a chance for us to interact, and we never know where the episode is going to go. So this is going to be a fun one. Oscar, are you excited about this episode?
I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready. Yeah,
ready?
I'm looking at the questions on my lap. It's yet another banger.
Another banger.
One or two toxic ones are here as well.
Mm-hmm. Always.
Standard.
Yes. Yeah. No, so firstly, thank you as well for all of the response to the last episode. Really glad you liked it and you enjoyed the whiteboard segment. It came out of a bit of issues, but from innovating, we managed to get a nice segment that people liked. So yeah, glad you enjoyed that too. So before we get into the questions that need quite extensive answers, we're going to go to the ones that weren't really questions because we put this out on Instagram. If you don't follow us, link is below. And some people, they weren't questions, it was just nice things they were saying to us. So somebody said, not a question, but I applaud what you guys are doing. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know who you are. Thank you. And there was one more that said, when are we having a meet and greet? Oscar, when are we having a meet and greet?
This is a good question.
This is a very good question.
This is a very good question. Would you like me to answer this question, Eli?
I put you on the spot.
Okay, fine. So the thing is, what specifically when it comes to meet and greets, our plan is to have something that's very intimate and very fun. That's very that's us.
Yeah.
That's us. That's been something that, with Eli gone for 5 months.
Yes.
And
sorry
now, so now we have something that we can plan on. So that's something we're working towards. So look out for that. Yeah. There's also a very exciting merchandise.
Yes, that we've been getting hammered about. We need merch and we need a meet and greet. So that stuff will come all in good time. It needs to be perfect.
All in good time.
You know when someone starts an answer with the thing is. When you said the thing is,
you know that, you're in trouble.
The thing is,
But the truth about it is, we're just so thankful to everyone who watches our content because in many ways I feel like you've grown with us.
Yeah.
And some of our fans have like a personal line to us. So like we get, and that's how, particularly to me, so I get to feel like when an episode is good, what areas of improvement we have. And if you have any areas of improvement you think that you want to give us, we're always open. Always open. If you think there's brands you want us to work with, always open to receive, suggestions from our audience.
Yeah, hit them with the brand one.
I mean, like there's a lot of brands that have asked to work with us, but we're also very picky because we really want to do everything based on our audience.
Yeah, we don't want to just be saying this is good if we genuinely think it's
don't.
Good,
yeah,
we care. The essence of Mantalk is like that honesty.
That honesty.
So you can't be promoting something that's not honest. So
exactly.
That's
like what we did. Let's say the first time anyone who watches our content, the first time anyone saw our whiteboard was at the Notify Logistics promo, and that's a program that we support, and we think that's a fantastic program. And the other time was Centonomy.
Yes.
The other time was ICLI.
Yes.
And
there's a pattern here.
So there's a pattern.
Yeah,
we know which brands work best with us. So bear with us if you're not seeing things like the meet and greet work, because there's a certain brand that we want to have, and there are certain products that we've experienced that we want to share with you. So that's the game.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
So those are the toughest questions. Let's you can go first with one of the first questions.
Okay. I think back to back. Yeah. So for me, I think the first question I'm going to take is, I'm not going to start with a toxic one, though there's one I can see here. Let's start with, how do you know that someone's intentions in your life are genuine or not? That's a question that's come to us.
Big.
How do you measure the kind of the intentions that people come with in your life? Because especially you, I feel like having, known you for the time that I have, that you're very
handsome.
Okay, yeah, it was right there. It was right there. But like, you're in a very big mood today. I wonder why. So, I just want to know, how do you handle all these different people who come into your life or want to be a part of your life or are so eager to contribute to your life? Because like you have this public platform and that's what you've been like. How do you relate with people? How do you know? How do you analyze people when they enter your space? being an influencer.
And
a good one at that.
So thank you very much. Do you know, it's been weird. It's been a very weird few years because before I sort of came here, all of my interactions were based on me meeting you now and the opinion you're drawing of me now.
Yeah.
But when I found that now I'm meeting people and there's already an opinion before I've met them and had that real life interaction, it's really different. It's very strange because what I find is that I'm having to control the interaction and just make them feel comfortable even though they've started the interaction. Does that make sense? So someone will, I'm talking about now very short interactions. I'm going to talk about now long-term ones. But in terms of just meeting someone, hi, how are you? Oh, I know you from this and this thing. You have to sort of gauge, like, firstly, where it's either do I know you from Mantalk or just from IG. And I can sort of pick up from that quite quickly. But I would say I'm very lucky that most of my interactions, all that they want is just a hi and like a chat. And it's always really good conversations anyway because of Mantalk. So I'm glad that more of my interactions are more based off of Mantalk than just being like, oh, I see your fashion stuff or stuff you do on your personal page. So but now more to answer the question in terms of how do you know what somebody wants out of like you in an interaction? I feel like you never can 100%. And that's a risk of being a human and interaction with other humans. You can't ever preconceive somebody's like ideas of what they want from you. You can gauge certain things, but you can't operate from a place of fear that this person might want something negative from me. So you have to take that risk, and then some will be good, some will be trying to take advantage of you. But what things you can do to like mitigate that is just taking time with relationships. So with me, before I get to a stage where I even start talking about certain things with you that have risk attached to it, it's a very long time. Like I don't rush into relationships, platonic relationships. Yeah, that's what I do. I just take a lot of time to assess the person, assess remember the FMS system? Where do I place you in my life? And then I can gauge from that. And
well,
how about you?
So for me, I think I've kind of had that transition of, because of Mantalk now, I'm a bit more in the public sphere. So, I have to, I've met a lot of new people, especially now people who I'd never engaged with at any level. Social, economic, spiritual, or otherwise. So, so I now have to understand the type of people that I'm dealing with. And because you'll find that, birds of a feather tends to flock together. So you'll find that the influencer space, there are certain interests that appeal to them. And for me, what I've always learned to use is something that's always been reliable is what are your interests? What are you really interested in? And if someone comes at me with something that's very superficial, I can gauge the the level of commitment that they have towards me as a person and a certain value system. So I can be able to tell how committed are you to, let's say, oh my God, Oscar, we really like your content. And then I'll be like, okay, that's nice. And then, I'll give them that allowance to speak. But then the depth at which they meet that conversation will tell me whether they really are genuinely into this conversation that we're having with them, or that engagement that we're having because of who we are, or if there's another agenda. Because if you really wait long enough, people will tend to show you who they are. If you really wait long enough.
My thing is though, I sometimes, I don't know if you're the same as me, but maybe I've picked up that there's an intention I don't like. Are you the kind of person that will address it and give them the reason why we're not interacting, or do you just sort of fade away? Because my thing, I'm like Kanye, I just fade away. Like I don't, little reference there. But I don't actually confront it. If we've had met 4 or 5 times and I start to see this is not actually going anywhere in terms of there's not much here, or I can see, and I won't go into specifics, but when, especially with me, when I'm talking to someone and there's little digs at me, but it's under the guise of friendships. So that little dig, you're like a privileged kid with this, with this. Like when I start picking up on that, I realize, okay, you're not actually trying to get to know me, because what you're describing is the preconception that you have, but you're not actually taking the time to get to know the individual. So when I start to see that stuff, I just fade away.
For me, I like what I've learned in life is if you give people enough rope, they often hang themselves. And it's worked 110%. That's my theory. I will always give you rope. I will give you the time and attention, and I will give you an objective. I'll tell you, this is what we want. Tell me what you want our engagement to be based on. So I'll even allow you to define the space that you occupy, whether you're a friend or whether you're a romantic relationship, that doesn't matter. I'll always do the same thing. I just allow you to define the boundaries within which that you want to relate with me. Yeah. And then if you consistently transgress those boundaries, then you now know that the only thing you're consistent at is being inconsistent.
Oof. Yeah.
So now it's like, it's not, you can't start pointing a finger. And this has happened a million times. There's even occasions you've been there where I've just broken it down to you and told you, behold, like, see.
Manifestation.
There. Like, you know, it's like the one thing some people are consistent at being is inconsistent. And you have to realize that also, even for you yourself, in your life, in your career, in your relationships, like there are things that you want that mean a lot to you. But if you realize that you're constantly shifting priorities, it means that you have not really reached the essence to which that you are. You've not really broken down yourself and broken down that which you want to achieve and gotten it right. And you know, as a young person, of course, we're all figuring life out. So you will be inconsistent in many things. But if in relations specifically, you have to give people space to express themselves and don't take it negatively, because that's another thing I always find. If somebody's being false with you, like is putting up a false persona, don't take it as, or wants to manipulate you for something, don't take it as a dig on yourself. Take it as a, like, it's them learning, you know, they're on a journey of life and they're expressing themselves the only way that they can understand. So like, you're just fortunate enough to be able to see it. So I'd also do the same thing that you do, which is fade away. But for people I genuinely care about, I actually sit them down and tell them, like, because I'm quite direct. I'm like, this is what I'm seeing. Tell me if I'm seeing something that's false. And most of the time, sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe bad.
But you can't, like sort of, to answer the question and finalize it as well, is you can't also operate from a place of faith. Take risks, get to know people. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You're not everyone's flavor. Not everyone's going to match with you.
Not anyone is your friend.
You can't. Not everyone's going to. It's not going to work with everyone. But take the risk, because you never know. You might meet an amazing person that you maybe didn't give the chance if you're scared of putting yourself in the situation to be able to interact and find out. Because as you learn people, you learn yourself.
I think that's a well answered question.
Done.
Yeah.
Oh, this is me now.
Yeah, that's
this is
you
me.
now.
Next question. I can see the toxic one that you're talking about. I'm going to avoid
it's right
that.
There. It's hot. Hot in the movie.
Okay. Next one is the importance of having a good relationship with your parents.
Go.
You want me to go?
Okay, let me go first.
I want to give you first.
I think there are few things in life that are more important. There's nothing actually. When I think about it, perhaps a relationship with God. But parents is first, because you see, they understand you because they raised you and they know you, and there are certain things in life that you've gone through. Especially if you've come from a stable home, you know, I have to respect the fact that there's a dichotomy to the conversation. There are parents who might be a cause of trauma, and we've seen that in our DMs where there are some parents who have been a source of abuse. And then, we've seen that a lot in our DMs. And then there are parents who've been like stable and the light that, you know, the lighthouse that we follow as the youth, you know, and they have a perspective that you can only unfold. I will often think of my parents specifically as like a book. The more I've grown up, the more I've grown as a young man, the more I've kind of uncovered chapters of their lives. Because you see, there are certain places they can't allow you to get to, and because it's just beyond your comprehension. But as you begin to understand who they are and their personalities and how to handle them, you start to see even within yourself, because they raised you. There are certain aspects that we take from them, both good and bad. And we have to figure out the only way you can explore those aspects of yourself are through establishing a positive relationship with your parents. You will never know why you are like your father in some ways, unless you talk to your father. And you will never know why you're like your mother. Perhaps, like for me, I know I have a lot of my mom's compassion and a lot of my mom's kindness, to the point that it is frustrating sometimes to have. But that gentle and kind nature comes from her, and how I've seen her kind of just want to consistently give to people around her. And for her, like, it has even defined who she is, in the sense that she's a giving person. Her charity is her personality, which is so insane to think.
That's
like
amazing.
In a world that's this brutal, when somebody's charity has become their personality, it's a very different mindset. So like even for me, I found that even in my own life, like you'll see we're constantly trying to work with children, constantly trying to mentor the youth, consistently trying to, use the little money that we make as Man Talk to, to give back in some way. And that comes from, my mom. Then from my dad is the ruthless business side, where like sometimes you just you
flick a switch.
You flick a switch and you're in a nice box. And that's like from my dad, because he's always like taught me that that life isn't easy, and that you shouldn't expect people to give you things, and that you should also like learn how to be self-sustainable. And he's also been like stable and supportive. So you see, those principles that I've learned from my parents, I have somehow tried my best. I don't think I'm there yet, but I've tried my best to incorporate them into myself.
I like that you said because you mentioned there's the good and bad. I like that you're extracting the best and applying it to become an involved version of both. I think that's what everyone should be basically striving for with parents. There's a weird thing I find that happens. Sort of when you're, this is how I've sort of looked at relationships. The question is, what's the importance of a good relationship, right? I find that in the formative years, especially for me, the onus of the whole relationship was on my parents. Like they formed the relationship with me, because at that point I couldn't understand the importance of a relationship. I couldn't gauge like how I should be acting to give them a pleasant experience to living with me. So I think maybe when you get before your teens, I feel like it's on them to form a relationship with you. You don't really think about it. But I feel like there's a certain point when you kind of become an adult that it's now on you to hold up your end of the relationship and make it the best version by being the best version of yourself with them. Because there's a certain point when you realize your parents are human and they come away from the role of authoritative figure and they turn into just another human who experiences things just like me. And it took me a long time to realize this, but there's when you always think your dad is Superman, like you think he can't feel anything, whatever happens, he'll be fine. There's a certain point when I was in my early 20s that I looked and I said, wait a minute, that's a man that was at one point 20 something years old. And you start to realize this guy is amazing, but this guy has flaws. That's a scary thing as a young man, to look at your dad and say, this guy has flaws. And even to look at your mum and go, she has flaws as well.
Yeah, it happens. It happens when you start to hit your mid-20s.
Mid-20s, and you could even start to think, because when the conversation happens that they say, oh, I was your age when? Then you start to think, what? So my dad says to me, when I was your age, I was just starting a family. And I think, wait a minute, you were just a 29-year-old or something. So you were already thinking how I'm thinking. So now I can relate to you as a young man. And then you work backwards. Okay, so now in a few years' time, you probably still feel the same way that you felt at 29. Just life has sort of happened for you. So I think it's very important to sort of hold up your end of a relationship. Like you said about people in our DMs saying that it's not always, glittery. I think we have to acknowledge that definitely, because if you're blessed to have a family that there's compassion, love, a healthy environment, one of the things whenever I pray and I'm thankful for is the environment that I've been given, because some people it's hostile from birth to when you leave that nest. So if you have my idea, I want to come from a positive, is if you have that, like treasure it, because there's so many people that don't have the opportunity to go back at the end of the day when you're young and be asked nice questions, be interrogated in a positive way, like how are you feeling, like all of this stuff. So if you have that, I think definitely treasure it. And if you don't, you can find it elsewhere. We always say, yes, you can't choose your parents, but you can choose who you give love to and receive love from. So find it elsewhere if you don't have it in the home. I don't want to speak to it because I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't want to pretend that I do understand. I can only have compassion and think what I would advise somebody that I love in that situation.
So that's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. It's good that you've limited your opinion that way.
I'm not going to try and understand.
Because the both of us, I think
very blessed.
We are blessed to have, come from stable families and a mom and dad. There are those who are raised in single parent homes and such, but and that's not a knock on anyone of those people. But the thing is, we don't want to speak, of being out of touch, and that's something that we're very careful for. So it's a very good response.
I'm steering away for a second. because this is a very good question. I mentioned at one point our parents were 29, at one point they were 27. What are a few things, this is now a question for you, Oscar. Okay, you can ask me the same. What are a few things, like, as Oscar, that you think are going to be top 5 things that you're going to want to instill in the younger version of you, the child?
Charity is one. I think the compassion that comes with understanding that you come from a point of privilege is a very important thing.
Also, can you define, because when you say privilege, people might take the definition as monetary.
Well,
privilege is not just it's like we said, environment and things.
I think when I say the word privilege, for me, I think it's a subjective word, that one. When I say the word privilege, from my side, I think privilege is somebody who comes from a socially and economically stable environment.
So from that angle, okay, fair.
From the point where, like, my children, I hope, if I'm able to provide them with the stability that I've been provided with, don't have to wonder where they sleep, what they eat, what they wear. Okay. You see, there's certain, they don't lack in love from a home and compassion. They don't lack in, their needs, primary and secondary, are met. Okay. That's a point of privilege for me. And the fact that they come from the family they come from, with the heritage they come from. Yeah. You see, for me, I think that's a lot of privilege, because you see, the fact that I know exactly where I come from. The people who came before me, I understand my economic situation, and I know that I can move up. I understand my social situation, and I know that I can move up based on my own initiative, and that the barriers they exist, but they are much less than a lot of people who are experiencing life right now. That's how I see privilege. So
fair, very fair.
I don't know for you, how would you perceive?
I always say that privilege is the opportunity to fail, and that's what I want to give my kids. Like, the opportunity, you can fail 100 times. I'm here, like, it's fine. Like, go try this, because I think in that process you'll identify what you love and identify happiness. And I think what everyone strives for is that opportunity to be waking up every morning, doing something they love, going to bed feeling fulfilled, and having a loving environment. I think that's the essence.
That's a very good take. That is an exceptionally good take. Do we have it on camera? Yeah, we do. That's a very good take. The privilege, I've never thought of it like that.
It's the opportunity to fail. I always equate it to, if I look at a kid that's quote unquote the most privileged, if, like, just by society standards, I'll look at somebody like Jaden Smith, right? Jaden Smith, if you look at him, you think that is just a privileged kid. You've grown up in a safe environment, all the money, socially, you're here. In terms of the access to whatever you want, if you want entertainment, that's your line. You can go and do that. But if we look at them, he's been given the opportunity to fail. He can go into music, try acting, and succeed in it, naturally, because of where he is in life. But also, what I've seen from him, he's younger, but I really respect this kid, because what you've seen from him is he's been given all of that, and he's found what he loves, which is giving people that need pure water. Like, if you see a kid in his early 20s going to, like, Flint, Michigan, and setting up, food for the homeless, water because there was no water in the city, that's a kid that has everything. And in having everything, he's been able to identify what he cares about and what's going to make him go to bed and sleep happy and content.
But you can tell, like, you see that thing, that's the first thing I want to teach my children, is that charity, because you'll find that people,
we're saying the same thing, right? Very true, good point.
People who come from a point of privilege, my understanding of them has always been, a lot of the people I've met, rather, is there is that lack of compassion, especially in a system that is very elite and class based. Like some of the countries of the world, like some of the places I've been, like, you see, I personally, first real experience with charity was in India, and India has a caste system that they stick to, it's brilliant. Proper caste system, but within that society there were still people who believed in charity in spite of it, and that for me was a very touching thing. And then when I came home, I also realized that as much as we're in a developing country in Kenya, we still have people who are focused on giving back, and a lot of those people tend to come from privileged homes. But then there's also the kind of shady part of giving back that I noticed. You see, and you see, the thing about being Kenyan is the fact that people they underestimate your perspective. You know what I mean? Exposed. They really don't think you know what you know. So they'll open their mouths and say some things, and then you'll be like, somebody from another country comes to this one and he's there saying, like, they're so happy.
They have nothing.
They have nothing.
Have everything.
But they have everything. They're so happy.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, this child is smiling at you because just down the corner I saw a mom pinch the child, telling her, if you don't smile and come home with food for tonight,
Exactly.
we'll be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So you see, like, so that's just that perspective. Like, I feel like that's the first thing I'd want my child to learn. Second thing is,
should we do 3 because of time? Let's do 3.
Yeah, let's do 3. The first one I think is charity. Second one is money management, financial literacy.
Yeah.
I think that there's not enough conversations around financial literacy at a young age.
Hence all of our partnerships.
Yeah.
Hence all of the stuff we're doing in terms of brands. Because it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's needed.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Good shout.
Yeah.
Because and to summarize, there's value in giving your child a piggy bank at a young age and giving them a savings culture. Because when they get older, especially in an economy with a salary structure, and we talked about this in the last episode, with a salary structure that's as ambiguous as Kenya's, you will find, there's no minimum wage in this country. So you'll find that every dime that is given to you is valuable. You get? So that's the second thing. Financial management. The third thing is teach them how to love.
Yeah.
And it's not, that's something that I think is, my guy, it can't, there's a lot of trauma going around because people at a young age were not taught like what love feels like, really.
Yeah. I have a question. Would you say, and this is just perspective, would you say teach them to love or show them how to love?
That's exactly how you do it. That's exactly how you do it. You teach them from showing. Like, that's exactly how you do it. Like, because you see, if you don't show your children and teach your children how to love, then they will enter a world where people are taking a lot of emotional energy from others, and it'll be just a hard life. You know, I've seen a hard life for some people in my life, and even for myself in many respects, where because I didn't learn that this is what love really feels like. You know, I was loved a lot as a child. Not to say that, but like that you have to really inculcate and create an environment where that child feels loved and cared for and is taught to value themselves. Otherwise, they will live a life where they're constantly looking for value from the world, not from themselves. And that's a very dangerous thing.
Amazing.
So maybe those 3 things. You?
So like I said, first is giving them privilege and by definition, the opportunity to fail. The next thing is exposure. Like, I want to show them as many places in the world and put them in as many experiences as possible for them to draw from all of them and just become a beast of a human. Because the more you see, the more you know, the more you can look objectively and have a measure of where you are now. Because if you've been it's like India, or if you've been to somewhere like when I went to Beverly Hills and you see like the upper echelon of like money, and then I've also been to like the slums here. So when you've seen that spectrum, wherever you are, you could either think, thank God, or you can also say, I want to strive for. Because when you have that spectrum, you can be grateful and also very motivated.
Especially for you, that's a very good shout because, like, goodness, we've gone into a tangent, but I think this is a good chance. Like, you come from like your dad's history when you shared it with me is like he started from like a Kenyan. Like a Kenyan, not at the top rung, but at the bottom rung of the economy, and like right now you're living the life that you're living. And like, how has that perspective like shifted, especially going to LA, seeing that the life you lead now at Kent, and like being in Nairobi and the businesses and that, like how do you think that perspective has like changed you?
You're not conscious. You're never conscious that it's changing it. I've realized that when I'm in the situation, maybe I'll be like, oh wow, but I'm there in the moment, like I'm there. So I'm not thinking, how is this going to affect me in 3 years' time when I'm thinking about, I'm going through a hard time, but I can think I'm grateful, or when I'm striving for something and I say, no, I've seen that. There's a quote we love in our family where my dad says, once you've gone to first class, you're never going to sit in economy again. Once you've seen first class, you can't go back and sit at the back of the plane. So I feel like what he's given me and what he doesn't overtly say it, because there was a few years where I spent sort of shadowing him. I think I've mentioned this, in Central Europe. And I watched him. A great example of this is when you sort of work for a company as a consultant, you're given a card and the limit is crazy. So you don't have to when you're now going on an excursion for the company or work in a different place, you're given a huge limit. You can get whatever car you want. You can go to any hotel. But I saw my dad with that opportunity, but he still would be like, no, I'm going to save the company money. It's allocated to him, but he says, no, like, I don't have to. You know, just because you've been given this, you don't have to exploit it. You don't have to use it. So for instance, when we're flying, he could take one flight, go there direct, very quick. But he says, no, I can save a few £100s every week. The company saves a few grand. When you're going to rent a car, he's like, I'm not going to get the best car because why would I? I'm just going to be going from A to B. Go to the hotel, I'm not going to spend the most in the hotel. So seeing that, and there's no one watching him, and there will be no judgment if he did, but seeing somebody like in a very privileged position still stick to the essence of who he is and not let the situation change him and be like, no, just as a principle, I'm not going to exploit somebody because I have the opportunity to. So seeing that, being in now the business world, then being very, very lucky to be taken to different countries, I think it's just made me very objective, and I have a very good perspective as to where I am now, what I'm trying to do, and what I don't want to do. Yeah. So it's just from mirroring and seeing experiences. He's never objectively said, obviously when you're young, be kind as you're a kid, but as you get older, he's like, he'll figure
and that's
it out for
exposure.
himself. Yeah, that's exposure. That's why I want to give it to my kids.
Yeah.
That's
2?
What I give to kids. That was 2. So 3.
No, that was 1.
No, 1 is the opportunity to fail. Privilege.
Yeah.
Giving them the opportunity to fail.
Okay, that's 1.
And then 2 is exposure.
Okay.
And then 3 is the same as you, the money. Giving them financial literacy. That's the key thing. Because I've realized from conversations with different types of people, I even told you, there's a certain way that people much richer than me think, and there's a certain way that normal people think when they're thinking about money. Someone that is rich will never use their money to facilitate what they need. But people that haven't been taught that, they'll think, I've got money, I want to spend my money. But people that are very privileged and they talk in a certain way, they use money in a very different way. So I've gone a certain level, my dad's taken me a certain level, I'm trying to...
Yeah, you'll understand why banks are a big innovation.
Exactly.
I feel like in Kenya, only now are we understanding financial systems at the way we should. Yeah. And being banked as for a long time in our history, we've been unbanked. And now, with M-Pesa and other financial, and other digital currencies, and we are now in a very exciting time. Yeah. One of the largest mobile money markets in the world. It means that a lot of Kenyans are only now beginning to understand the value of things like credit, the cost of credit, the cost of goods and services, the economics of growing and scaling a business, all that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that'll be my final thing. I feel like we've talked a lot about our parents. So shout out to our parents. Thank you. Yeah. I know mom and dad watch this, so yeah. Thank you, guys.
So it's my turn.
Yes, it's your question.
Yeah.
It's your question.
So now I think it's time for the toxic one.
Of course. I knew.
Actually, there are 2.
Okay.
Eli.
Oscar.
Do you
have
a fear of intimacy?
Absolutely not.
A fear of vulnerability?
Mild.
Discuss and give possible solutions. 10 marks. Discuss and give possible solutions.
So point, evidence, explanation. Okay. Yes. That's too vast. Let me just go how I was going to go. Do I have a fear of intimacy? Like, personally, do I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the word intimacy is so loaded, and I don't know where they were coming from with it, because there's different types of intimacy. Okay. There's intellectual intimacy, where sharing ideas with people. God. All right. There's emotional intimacy, where you're scared. This is true. There's emotional intimacy, where you're scared.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that is called...
We're scared of... just trying to keep us on brand here, Oscar.
Coming a question. What you're witnessing now is a master at work.
You're now...
You're now seeing a master at work.
But it's true. I will get to the one that maybe we all assumed.
Go. I'll give you time.
Yeah, there's emotional, there's all of that. And then there is also, there's physical intimacy that people can be scared of. I think the fear of all of them comes from background, like we were talking about. So maybe as soon as you feel a certain level of trauma, I know where you want us to go, but I'll go there. Yeah. But when you feel a level of trauma in one of those categories, it's going to be harder for you to get close to someone in that area, which naturally means the area we're going to talk about is physically. So in terms of physical intimacy, I feel like a lot of, it's me, isn't it? I don't want to answer as me. I have to answer as me.
You do have to answer as you. That is the point.
I don't think I have a fear of intimacy, of physical intimacy. I definitely don't. I've just
emotional intimacy.
No, I've just been blessed to have all of my platonic and non relationships I've not had one that's ended in a toxic way. Like I've always been able to come out of the situation and not feel hurt. So going forward, I don't have that fear. But I feel like if somebody wants to have that fear, it's to do with trauma beforehand. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Personally, for me,
I really curved that.
Yeah, you really did. Your reaction to that question was very good, Eli.
Thank you.
Very well structured.
Thank you, Oscar.
Very well tailored.
Yes.
I will not act like I have not noticed that you have somewhat
hop, skipped, and jumped.
somewhat avoided a personal story or several personal stories, and it's always good. But I think your perspective is also very good because I've never thought of intimacy as having types.
Yeah.
That there are types of intimacy. So I've learned something. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
Eli. Wow.
A whole new world.
A whole new
A
world.
new fantastic
I
point
will.
of view.
I think I'll use that question. Oscar, why don't you want to be with me? Babe, listen. There's different types of intimacy. You know, there's intellectual intimacy where we can meet.
Yeah.
Meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
But wait, no. The thing is, I think there's always a fear. There's always, with me specifically, there's always a fear because I've gone through relationships when I was very young. I feel like I must have been too young to enter certain relationships, and I'd labeled them as being very long term. And like I did learn the hard way that, you know, people change and things change.
Yeah.
And you see, when you go through life meeting, you know, going through relationships that have taught you lessons, they will always have you'll always have a bit of a fear of like getting into, you know, getting too vulnerable or too intimate with people.
Yeah.
But something I've learned to do that really counteracts it is trust myself.
That's key.
You see, like, because like I said, if I've learned all these lessons in a very painful way, then it also means that I am able to, like, I've internalized them enough to be able to prevent harm that's like super significant. And I'm also now much more acclimatized to putting myself first, because I feel like at a young age you don't really know who you are and what your priorities are and what will really, really cause you stress. You know.
Can I just applaud you? You know, we always say on here, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. This is a practical example of maybe a situation, like you said, was painful. You've taken the situation. It's not your fault, but how you react is your responsibility. Because I know the story and stuff, but somebody might have gone through your situation and said, I'm now scarred, and always bring it up. No, because you know this happened to me. You know this happened to me. But what you're saying is you did work, and now you've got a better relationship with yourself from the pain. So going forward, you're better rather than worse. So practical example of, you know, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Exactly, And you see, here's what's even crazier. The people in life who you had a prior relationship with and that caused you that pain expect you to be angry and bitter. Expect you to be, you know,
and if you are, you lose.
If you are, like, you're validating what they thought of you. But now imagine the karma and the celebration that you have every day when you wake up and you realize I'm actually better for it, you know. And most of the people that you'll go through in life that caused you pain will continue consistently living in that pattern. And they don't know that they're living that pattern and they're comfortable inside it.
So true.
So, you know, like, personally, like, that's really helped me overcome the fear where I've learned to trust myself. Even coming in front of a camera, joining social media, that's a certain level of vulnerability. There's a certain level of sharing that I had put myself out of for a while.
You're doing fantastically well, may I say.
Thank you very much. This silk shirt will evidence it.
Different.
But like, you know, it's just that, I feel like it's just that self-belief, because if you are forged in a fire, then you can withstand the heat.
Shout out to Fredo.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's my response. Perfect. Like, if you feel fear of vulnerability or fear of intimacy because you've had past pain and trauma, trust yourself more, and you'll be surprised at just how effective you'll be. And
watch mantalk.ke, because solutions are there.
By the way, speaking of mantalk.ke, like, share, subscribe.
Yes, there it is. I think because of time, I'm gonna one more, and then we do our then we'll say these for the next season, or do we? No. We scrap them. We'll go into okay. So the last question is, what is healthy ego feeding?
What the hell is ego feeding?
I think what she like.
What the hell is that? I don't know what that is.
I feel like it's literally feeding someone's ego. No, so I think it's maybe if you have a friend and you can see they're good at something and they like when they're praised about this certain thing.
Are you sure
So
that's what it is?
yeah, I feel like if you're praised for a certain thing,
Yeah.
and you can see they've already got pride in that, like magnifying that and shining a light on it, and even hyping them up.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's what I feel like ego feeding is.
On camera, on set, we are figuring out what this is.
Because I feel like when you, I feel like your ego comes from something that you excel at. If I have an ego about like my dressing, like I have an ego about my fashion choices, then I'm sort of celebrating. My fashion, and I'm able to be confident and express an ego in that. So when I'm wearing something nice, my ego is higher. That's how I would look at it. So I think ego feeding is if you know I like dressing nice, every time you see me, you'll tell me what you think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But like this, how can I know that when I give you a compliment, you're not considering it in
I think that's what her question is, right? So like, what is healthy? Is there a space where it's healthy to feed someone's ego, or do you?
But it's feeding your own ego. Like I feel like that's the question. You see, when someone says what is healthy ego feeding, I feel like you have to understand that your ego is your enemy in many ways.
In many ways, but not in all.
Yeah,
so
yes, I understand. Yeah, in many ways. So in the sense that healthy ego feeding would be the way I'd decipher the question to make it easier to answer is because I personally, that's a question I don't think I have a context. I have enough context.
No, we're just figuring it out on camera. We don't look at these questions before.
We don't look at these questions.
That's why
before.
we're figuring it out. This is what.
Yeah. I think I'd ask myself, like, I think the question that we have been asked is, what acts of self-love are there that can make me feel better about myself?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Instead of ego feeding, because
I think the word ego is what's thrown us off.
Yeah.
The word ego is feeding. So, but then there's the question quite vague because is it feeding your own or is she talking about feeding others?
Yeah.
And in terms of ego, like define it, you know?
Yeah. Because I honestly think that when somebody says you're feeding his ego, it's always a negative connotation.
Should we reframe the question? Let me reframe the question. Should we say, Oscar, what do you do to give your peers more confidence in themselves?
That's a good question. See,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's no ego feeding. It sounds like a very negative thing.
Now we're podding.
I honestly think that the one way that's been most effective is just showing my friends and the people around me that I'm completely committed to their growth.
Yeah.
That's showing that commitment means that I am reliable.
Yeah.
I am consistent when it comes to what they want and what values they tell me they value. And that's where the previous point I made on inconsistency shows. Because I will always treat you the way you want to be treated. And the moment I realize I can't treat you in a way that benefits you as much as it also like creates a good relationship between me and you. Because I'm never trying to take from people. I'm always trying to like share in a healthy and collaborative manner. But when I realize that's not something I can give a friend, I just leave them.
Yeah.
But if I realize that they are actually committed to their growth, let's take, for example, someone like Rotimi.
Yes. Oh, what a guy.
You know, I like to use him as an example because that's where I think, because I met him rather recently.
Yeah.
I like to see Rotimi grow because I know that what it takes to come to a country like Kenya that is harsh and try and eke out a living as a fitness trainer, you know, and to be very good at what you do. And all you need is people around you supporting. And that's why you'll see us consistently like tell him, yo, keep going, keep pushing. Because we see that he is committed to
and the potential. When you see the
potential.
And the
potential, and that he's actually committed to his growth. Or Eli, when we met, we very quickly we picked up that the both of us have a growth mindset. And like we've both like worked really well because of that growth mindset and the fact that we know that the value of consistency is day by day. You know, just all these little things.
I mean, the first 5 minutes, what I said to you was like, "You're an intelligent guy."
Yeah.
And you're like, "You too."
You too. That was our first conversation. Yeah. Like that commitment to growth, to someone else's growth, is how I give my people confidence. Like people in my corner know, if you call Oscar, like I won't think about me. I'll think about you. And I might give examples that I've learned because maybe, let's say most of the time, a lot of the calls I get are about the profession and stuff. And the fact that I have such a varied experience I've had a varied experience when it comes to a very wide experience when it comes to like what I do. So a lot of people call me and leverage that. Then there's the people who call me and leverage social media and my new experience there. So, I just try and push them up that way. And the best way to do it is through advice and consistency. So like that's how you grow people around you and the confidence around you. You need to gas them up. You need to gas the people around you up. When they come to you feeling good, they will consistently come.
The way I do it, I love that answer, by the way, and I've seen it. Like, this is facts. Like, if you know Oscar, this is very true. The way I do it is whenever I see one of my friends or someone I care about, which is very few people, when someone I care about comes to me with a negative or ever goes to a negative place, I try to stop it as quick as possible and give them the alternative. Or what about this? What about this?
True.
I'm like, no, but wait, you said this, but what's the opportunity you've just seen? Like, what's come out of that? So I try to be maybe a happy medium to sort of bring them back to a nicer equilibrium when it comes to their emotions attached to a certain situation. That's what I like to do.
And you do it really well. It's very true. Like, if you're as analytical as I am, I tend to be very pessimistic. And we've worked on projects together where your position has been, okay, that's the reality, but where's the optimistic POV?
So I encourage everyone to basically do that. If you love someone, just show them through helping their growth and helping them come from a place that's negative back into positive. I think that's a very good.
Do you know how you can help us? By liking, sharing, and subscribing.
Help our growth. Help our growth.
Help our growth today at mantalk.ke.
Just before we go, I think we should do the quick Mantalk mentions / Mantalk plugs. I think if I say mine, you're going to say same. Okay. So my Mantalk plug is Squid Game.
I hate you.
Squid Game.
I hate you.
Squid Game. Netflix.
You got there before me.
I was going to say, if we can both have the same one because we had a conversation about it. We could do a whole episode on it.
It's so good.
Because of time in this one, we're going to talk about it maybe extensively at some other point or even on a live.
Is it insane how human nature is actually like this same thing across the board?
So before let's give them why we're saying that. So Squid Game, basically, the concept is, I'm not going to spoil it. You're in a world where, it's this world.
It's this world.
But what's happened is there's a corporation or organization that finds people in debt and at the end of the brink of like, there's no hope in life in terms of finance. No, but that's the concept. That's the concept.
Don't spoil it for them.
No, I'm saying in terms of their financial life. Okay. They're at the brink. They're bankrupt or there's no hope. So they give.
I feel like that's already a spoiler.
But that's in the first episode. You see this guy. The first guy, you already see the guy. I'm talking about why they're chosen. Okay. You're chosen because you're hopeless, and you're given the opportunity to get out of debt, but you have to play a series of challenges. I'm not going to say what they're challenges that as you go further down, you're able to get yourself out of debt more. That's how I'll say it.
And you're financial freedom.
But you're against the other people that are also in the same situation. So natural human order and human emotion and human nature, animalistic nature, shows itself in a confined environment.
Okay, that's a good answer.
But basically, it's just so much to unpack.
It's fantastic.
I
wouldn't spoil it. I wouldn't spoil it for anyone. I think that's one of the best. That's, if not the best, one of the best things I've ever seen on television. It's a mirror up into society. It's like it looks at society like this. Like, I honestly don't know. There's many. There's Shakespeare. But there's also Squid Games. So so go check it out. I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Sensation. That's yours as well, right?
Yes, unfortunately. He dropped.
That's yours as well. Done. So go watch that. But before you do that, like, comment, subscribe, and share with a friend. Follow us on social media. Comment what you want the next questions to be in the next one. And if you watch Squid Games, comment as well. And let us know
if you're an anime fan, watch Demon Slayer.
That's another shout out.
Kinetsu is a fantastic anime. It's also on Netflix, so check it out.
Amazing. So guys, thank you, and we'll see you next week on mantalk.ke. Peace.